This is the place for history. We're here with Haley Frizzle-Green, and we're talking about a landmark for about 70 years in Springfield that's related to Route 66, the Colonial Hotel.
Yeah.
And you have expertise in this. You've been writing about it.
I have. I've been writing about it for our Missouri Times magazine. It should come out, I think, in the spring.
Okay. For the State Historical Society
for the
of Missouri.
Historical Society.
Again. And so I want to go back in time where pre-1907, when the hotel opens, John Woodruff is the guy who builds it. What is his vision? Why does he decide, I'm going to build a 6-story hotel in 1907 in Springfield, Missouri?
Well, that's just kind of the guy he was. I mean, he was very integral with the development of Springfield, and I think he just saw the opportunity. I know after reading some newspaper articles, it seemed like Springfield needed more hotel options, and so he had plenty of connections across St. Louis, Kansas City, and then he had businessmen from Springfield who supported him in this idea, and it just came along.
So when it opens, this is what it looks like. Or is this not what it looks like? Is that second wing added later?
No, that's what it looks like.
When it opens in 1907. So the Colonial Hotel opens. And how do people view it in Springfield, Missouri?
It seemed like it was a huge success. I mean, high school proms were held there, civic meetings, business conferences. It seemed like the Colonial Hotel was the place to be, whether you were just part of the community or a tourist or a traveling group. It was very popular.
Is this kind of the vision Woodruff had for it, to be a hub for downtown Springfield activity? Right,
yeah, and the location is perfect because you have theaters around, you have the YMCA building, and of course Route 66 later. I mean, they didn't know that at the time, but it really is the perfect location.
Well, let's get into 66 then, because we're celebrating the centennial of Route 66. And with the centennial, we're talking about how the name came about. So Woodruff, as I understand it, is kind of key in the meeting, but how does the meeting become held at the Colonial, and who are the key players there?
It's actually something that's kind of up for debate, because in the newspapers there's not any announcement of this particular meeting. Some people think that it could be just a last minute, they were already in town. I think there was a Rotary Club conference held at the Colonial Hotel, so maybe just the timing worked out. But really, Cyrus Avery from Oklahoma, he was a highway commissioner, and then B.H. Pipemeyer, he was from the Missouri Highway Department of Transportation.
So these people come together, and I understand there's some debate about the name. People aren't like locked into 66 right away.
Right. I think it was offered to Kentucky. I think 60 was offered to both Springfield and Kentucky, but Kentucky preferred 60. And so then 62 was brought up for 66, as we know it today, and they didn't like 62, so they sent a telegram. Cyrus Avery and B.H. Pipemeyer, they sent a telegram to Washington, D.C. and said, you know, if all these other states agree, we would prefer 66.
And that becomes the telegram that names 66, and that's why Springfield, Missouri is considered the birthplace of Route 66.
Right.
So we're going to go forward with the Colonial Hotel and post this big event that launches this easier to travel road across the United States. What happens to the Colonial after 1926? Is it like, oh, this is the place like we see it now?
It seemed that way. President Harry S. Truman, he actually stayed there multiple times. John F. Kennedy stayed there before he was president, when he was senator. He stayed there when he was in town. And I actually just found out that Betty Davis had stayed at the hotel in 1942 when she was on tour doing war bond rallies. And so there was a rally at the Shrine, but she stayed at the Colonial. So throughout its lifespan, it was the place to be, yeah.
So Betty Davis had eyes for the Colonial to
Yeah,
reference that song.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any other famous celebrities there? Any singers, songwriters, politicians?
Yeah, definitely a lot of politicians I found. Also, I mean, the Colonial was basically across the street from the Jewel Theater, where the Ozark Jubilee would have been filmed and held. So even though I haven't gotten that deep into that time period yet, I would assume that a lot of people who starred on that show would have stayed at the Colonial just based on location.
So at some point, the interstate comes in, and the interstate comes in and it diverts people to the north.
Right.
So we know the distance between downtown now and I-44. It's not super convenient anymore.
Right.
It's not just pulling off the road and pulling in. So what kind of impact does that have on the Colonial?
Well, it seems like it takes away a lot of that tourist income and notoriety, and that happened a lot along Route 66, not just in Springfield, but just having a lack of revenue and guests staying at the hotel. And I think it's changing hands also, different management, different owners, and so eventually it just kind of fell off the map, literally.
So yeah, so in about 1978 it goes vacant.
Right.
And then what happens to it between 1978 and its demise?
Right. Well, the property ends up being gifted to Missouri State University, and then it sits vacant and basically in disrepair from 78 to 1997 when it's demolished. Half of the roof ended up caving in between that time, so really was hard to salvage it. The different ideas, whether that be housing for students or apartment buildings, it just never came to fruition. And then in 1997, I think it was just maybe the cheaper option to demolish the hotel and then eventually build the parking lot.
A parking lot?
Yeah.
So what we have left of this icon of Springfield and Springfield history is a parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything left of the Colonial anywhere around town?
Yeah, the columns that we see in those photos, those columns are actually near the Art Museum, in between the Art Museum and Phelps Grove Park. So those columns were saved, and then that's all I'm aware of. Yeah.
So the 4 columns are near the Art Museum, and we're talking about the columns in the center of the picture, kind of between the 2 taller wings of the building, and it's the columns that are out front, the 4 columns
Correct.
that are out front.
Yeah.
And is there anything else you learned about this in your research and writing that we haven't touched on that you think is really interesting or important that we should know about it?
At the time when it was being built, it was actually the only all fireproof building in Missouri outside of St. Louis and Kansas City. So.
Oh, that's interesting. So Woodruff was using new technology to build.
Yeah, and they used that as an advertisement too. When they advertised in the newspaper, it was all fireproof. Yeah.
So are there any future plans for this parking lot that you've heard about?
From what I've seen in the news recently, I believe the university ended up gifting it to the city, or at least some part of it to the city, and they're going to be using it as a memorial park. And then an artist was hired by the city to create this commemorative sculpture that will be in that location. And I think it will be dedicated during the centennial on April 30th.
Oh, okay. So April 30th, there's going to be a purpose for this parking lot.
Right.
I keep thinking of that one song now.
Yep.
They tore down the building and they put up a parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, now they're going to put up something else instead
Yes.
of just a parking lot.
Yeah.
And in terms of the most important buildings in Springfield, I know you do research on not just Route 66, but a lot of different things. Where does this fall?
This is probably one of the most important in terms of Route 66 and Springfield's history. It just shows from that time period development, city and community buy-in, and then of course the moment of sending that telegram, and then just all of the different faces and the people that had come in and stayed there throughout its lifespan.
So the Colonial is gone, but not necessarily forgotten.
Yeah.
Okay. Haley Frizzle Green, State Historical Society, Missouri. Thanks for joining us
Yeah.
on The Place for History.
Thank you.